When I first started writing, I used to write poems that were pretty long. They were more like stories as opposed to just sticking to the topic. As I got more experience and learned how to best represent myself, sometimes my poems became shorter. But my coats is a poem basically talking about the different type of attitudes, behaviors that I would have to display in different environments with different people. Uh, a lot of times it's just for as a protective barrier to survive, if you will. Um, anyway, this poem talks about the different type of fronts and things I would do uh, as I was young and learning who I am. Things a little bit different now than it was. It was almost 20 years ago I wrote this, but nevertheless, I think we all have did that, depending on where we're at, who we're dealing with, represent a different person that doesn't necessarily represent the entire element of who we are to our core. So anyway, my coats. I love my coats because they're my shields. I wear them constantly because of what they don't reveal. There are several coats in my possession, and I change them like I change my clothes. I deliberately wear them because they cover up more than anyone ever knows. One of my favorite coats is my coat of arrogance, the one that most of the world sees. It's a thick coat adaptable to various degrees. I wear it consistently as an act of prevention. It intimidates those that I refuse admission. Those that have seen my coat of arrogance don't like it at all. They think it's too big when it's actually quite small. That coat is a powerful coat that I will continue to wear whenever I deem appropriate. Those that don't care for that coat are exactly the ones who will frequently see it because they're the ones who provoke it. I have a coat of confidence that I wear on occasion. That coat is often mistaken for the coat of arrogance, which it actually has no relation. The coat of confidence has given me several things I thought I desired. It's often a coat that I would rather leave at home because it's too much to carry when I get tired. The coat of confidence is a coat that I must sometimes hide. It occasionally brings about things that don't necessarily coincide. The coat of confidence is a coat that doesn't always serve its purpose. It's sometimes a coat that protects the interior and ignores the surface. I have a coat of compassion that I try not to wear too often because it's one of my weakest. I seem to overlook it, that coat, oblivious to its uniqueness. I always seem to get that coat soaked, knowing its fragile state. I usually don't realize that I'm wearing that coat until it's much too late. People often ask me to share that coat, and I usually do quite sparingly. I need to be careful with whom I share that coat because people sometimes abuse it quite daringly. Although my code of compassion is one that can put me at a disadvantage, I will continue to use it and offer it to whomever will cherish it and ignore any permanent damage. I have a code of isolation, which is probably my most distinguished. People often wish, People often think it's inappropriate and wish to be extinguished. It's probably the code in which I'm most proud. Because of its dark appearance, it threatens the crowd. The code of isolation is a code that is respected by few. Because of its intimidating demeanor, it will encounter plenty of storms before it's through. The code of isolation is one that I don't have to pamper because it's strong endurance. Its complexity is quite mysterious to most. It's self-supporting, never needing assurance. The code of isolation is one that I will never dispose. It's like a pair of black shoes that you can wear with any of your clothes. One of my most apparent coats is my coat of pride. It's the one that needs repairs that are all too obvious to hide. Out of all my coats, this is the one that gets the most attention. It's the one I have been criticized about too many times to mention. The coat of pride is the coat that helps me sustain my independence. It prevents me from going outside unprotected because of everything associated with it must make sense. As I've matured, I've learned that the coat of pride doesn't have to be worn to every occasion. Sometimes that the weather doesn't require that I sometimes the weather doesn't require that coat allowing me to put it on a much needed vacation. In this cold, cold world, I have to wear at least one of my coats on every occasion, no matter the climate condition. Which of my coats will I have to wear with you? Or will your warm heart be more than enough to allow me the omission?